Lauren got into her car and started the engine. Today, she was going to her parents' house. Her parents had lived in the countryside for several years. Her father had worked all his life as a school teacher, and her mother worked as a chief accountant in a factory. When they retired, they decided they would have a much better life in the countryside. Lauren was against this idea, constantly worried about her parents' health. Still, her mother managed to change her mind. For a woman, her parents' marriage was the most ideal, which could not be said about her marriage. Her parents had lived together all their lives. They didn't even seem to fight, and she had plenty of money in her family, but no marital happiness. Lauren had long ago learned that money can't buy everything. She has been married to her husband for 17 years. At first, everything was fine. At the time, her husband was still working in a travel agency as an ordinary manager. He earned a small fortune, and Lauren, who had a small business, brought the bulk of the family income into the house. 17 years had passed. Now, with Lauren's light hand, her husband has his own travel agency, and the woman still continued to move in the field of catering. Everything Dwayne has is a direct credit to Lauren. However, the man does not appreciate this, and quarrels arise because of this. The very difficult character of the wife does not allow the family to live in peace. Not only the husband suffers, but also the daughter suffers. Lauren is used to the fact that she has to keep everything under control. She has appointed herself head of the family and plays this role. They have lived as strangers for a long time. They have a grown daughter who has her own problems and her own life. Lauren stopped by the store where she bought the necessary groceries her mother ordered. Everything is fine in the village except that there are no stores at all. There are only people left in that village, and they don't need much, just what the farmers sell once a week. Lauren drove along the highway, overtaking one car after another. Already before the village, she realized that something was wrong. The car became simply unmanageable. The woman had to pull over to the side of the road. The woman got out of the car and took a good look at her tire. She was not mistaken. The tire was flat. Lauren had always been accustomed to solving her problems on her own. She had not had anyone to rely on for a long time. So, she opened the trunk and pulled out her spare. As she approached the front tire, she realized that she knew absolutely nothing about it. After a couple of minutes, an expensive SUV pulled up beside her and a man got out and headed towards her. "Young lady, what are you doing here alone on the road?" "Can't you see? I have a flat tire and I'm trying to fix it." "Do you know how?" The man smiled. "No, but this is the 21st century, and you can find out anything you want from the internet." Lauren was very angry with this arrogant man who thought he was smarter than her. "Let me help you." "I don't need anyone's help. I'm used to handling everything myself." What a serious woman. I like them. The man smiled. "What are you implying now? I'm actually married." "Strange. Why do you not wear a wedding ring?" Lauren realized that the man was already paying attention to her ring finger. She really didn't wear a ring because she didn't see the point in it. Her husband had taken it off back in their 3rd year together, saying it got in the way of his work, and really, he just didn't want anyone to know that he was married. "I don't need your help. You can keep going," Lauren said and rolled the wheel. She picked up her phone and started looking at information on how to change her wheel. "No, I can't look at that. I will still help you even if you are against it. It's not the kind of thing a pretty girl should be doing." Lauren was a little embarrassed and stepped back. The man got to work. While he was changing the wheel, Lauren had time to assess him from head to toe. He was good looking and athletic enough. She scrutinized him from behind. "Well, that's it. You're good to go." "Thank you very much. How can I thank you?" "Well, if you can give me your phone number, I would be very happy." Lauren blushed a little and thought about it. "Okay, but if you decide to call me in the morning." She handed him the card. "You're a serious woman." The man smiled. "My name is Clements, by the way." "And my name is Lauren, but you probably already read it on the card." "I'll be sure to call you." The man got into his car and drove on. Lauren stood outside for a while longer, and then drove to the village. She was overwhelmed by some strange feelings. It seemed as if she had committed some crime. Lauren had never cheated on her husband. She had always been pure before him, and now she had given a stranger a card and felt as if she had cheated. With these thoughts in mind, the woman arrived at her parents' house. "Daughter, well, you finally arrived." "Hello, Mom." Lauren began to get heavy bags out of the trunk, and after a couple of minutes, her father ran out. He decided to help her. After the groceries were brought into the house, she sat down on the couch. "Lauren, what are you doing here without Dwayne?" Dad asked. "Well, Dad, he has a lot of things to do and problems to deal with. He doesn't have time for all this traveling," Lauren muttered. "He's become too businesslike," Mom put in a few words. "I don't care what he does anymore. I don't even know why you live with him." "Lauren, how calm you are about what's going on in your family. You have to do something. You have a daughter." "Mom, what am I going to do? Bertha's a big girl now. She's got her own life. Have you seen her at all? She came home here and she had a tongue piercing." How I scolded her. But it doesn't do any good. She refused to take it out, but I'm not going to pull that earring out by force. "Lauren, you've lost your relationship with not only your husband, but also with your daughter." "Mom, you can also say that it's my fault. Tell her it's all my fault, just the way you like it. Except that if it wasn't for my work, we'd all be living very poorly." I'm not going to say anything. The old woman lowered her head and went to sort out the packages. "Mom, I'm sorry. I have been very nervous and irritable lately. Daughter, maybe you should see a doctor or take some vitamins. Look, you're always angry and yelling at someone." "I'll think about it, but not now." "Mom, are you going to feed me?" "Maybe I'm angry because I'm hungry." "Oh, I forgot you were on the road." The older woman ran to the refrigerator. After eating lunch, Lauren decided to go home. She had never visited her parents for a long time. It was very boring, and there was nothing to do here at all. Besides, there was a lot of work to do in the city. "That's it, Mom. I have to go. Give Dad a kiss for me, because he's already asleep." "Well, you know your father. He just needs to eat, and his eyes immediately close." Mom grinned. "Daughter, I've made something for you. It's pie for Bertha and some jams." "Oh, thank you, Mom. I certainly can't buy jams like that anywhere else." The woman carefully put the bag with the jars of jam on the back seat and then hugged her mother. "Daughter, at least call us more often. Do not forget the old people." "What kind of old people are you? You're still pretty good." "I don't know, Lauren. I can't even recommend you anything. On the one hand, it's high time you divorced Dwayne, and on the other, you have a daughter. Mom, we'll figure out what to do about our relationship. Let you stay out of it, at least here. Daughter, try to control yourself, or soon everyone around you will scatter and you will be alone." "Alone, Mom? I'll never be alone. Don't forget, I have a job that employs a lot of people, a job I won't part with." Lauren smiled and got in the car. An hour and a half later, she was in town. Everything was slowly falling, and autumn was lingering outside. If you look at the calendar, it should be snowing all the time, but it never snowed. It rained during the day, and the temperature dropped a bit at night. Today, they had a little frost, and the road was like glass. If they already had sprinkled it in the city, you had to be extra careful outside of town. Lauren drove slowly through town and watched the evening lights come on. When she got home, she found that no one was home. Lauren dialed her daughter's number and put her phone to her ear. There were only long beeps. She had never heard back from her daughter. The woman unpacked the bag her mother had given her, put the pie on the table, and put the jams away on the mezzanine. Lauren sat down in front of the TV and didn't notice how she fell asleep. She had an interesting dream. She dreamt about the man she had met on the road. The woman awoke from the loud slamming of the door. She opened her eyes and saw Bertha in front of her. "Bertha, where have you been? I called you." "I was taking a walk. Can't I go out now?" "What time is it now?" "About 10 o'clock. "I fell asleep and didn't even notice," Lauren said, wiping her eyes. "Where is your father?" "How should I know? Am I supposed to keep track of him? I haven't seen him since this morning." "Oh, I see. He must be working." "Yeah, sure, he's working, Mom. Why can't you see the obvious? I already told you I saw him with some lady." "Daughter, mind your own business. Your father and I will take care of it." "Go ahead, take care of it." Bertha went to her room, and Lauren continued to lie on the couch. She wondered. Not long ago, Bertha had claimed to have seen Dwayne with another woman at the cafe. Lauren didn't believe her, of course, or rather, she didn't want to believe it. The woman still had hope that her husband was an honest man. She did not believe the rumors that constantly surrounded her. Everyone was talking. Friends and relatives were talking, but she let it pass her lips. The woman lived in her perfect world. Near midnight, Dwayne came home. He was drunk. It was immediately apparent. "Where have you been? It's after midnight." Lauren began to resent him. "Where I was, I'm not there," said Dwayne with a smile on his face. "Shame on you. You should be ashamed of your daughter. She's a grown-up. She understands everything." She sees that we have tense relations with Mom. And why is it tense? It's easy. You just pecked at me. You didn't even think of me as a man. All you think about is money. I'm sick of it. What am I thinking about money? I think you're the only one who thinks about money. Oh, now you're going to start telling me that everything I've done is because of you. That's an old wives' tale. I'm going to bed. Dwayne wasn't going to listen to anything else. He just took off into the bedroom, and Lauren was left standing in the middle of the living room. She was very upset. The next day when she woke up, her husband was gone. He always left very early, and even his nightly walks didn't bother him. He could go out half the night somewhere and still be awake and full of energy early in the morning and go to his favorite job. Lauren was lying in bed thinking about her life, when suddenly the phone rang. The number was unfamiliar to her. Hello, Lauren? Yes, who is this? Clement, remember? I remember. She cheered up sharply. Lauren, our conversation didn't quite work out. Would you like to join me for coffee? I'd love to. When would you like it? Right now. All right, send me the address and I'll be there. I'll be waiting for you. Lauren gathered her thoughts, quickly washed her face, and got ready. She didn't know if she was doing the right thing, but she didn't care what anyone else thought. The only thing she wanted was a distraction from the thoughts that were stirring densely in her head. An hour later, they met at a cafe. Lauren, as always, looked beautiful, and Clement noticed it right away. They sat down at a table by the window. You are beautiful. Thank you. You look very nice too. And where's your husband that you agreed to meet him so easily? He's working. The conversation did not stick at first, but after half an hour, they found common ground. Lauren talked about her family and Clement talked about himself. He was single and didn't even have a girlfriend. He spoke very nicely, and Lauren caught herself thinking that she was beginning to like him. She was embarrassed again. After this date, she went to her friend's house to tell her everything. The friend was at home and was really looking forward to the details since Lauren called her beforehand. He is so interesting, you have no idea. What about Dwayne? You're married, aren't you? What about Dwayne? He has his own life. He doesn't even think about us. He hangs around all day and only comes home at night. Well, I don't know. Dwayne sounds like a fine man to me. Megan, all normal men to you, but only because you're not married. Well, why do you keep going on and on about this? Well, I'm sorry. Megan was a French teacher, so sophisticated. She's only interested in her spiritual developments. She's never been married, even though she's 36 years old. She does not have a personal life. Of course, the girl dreams of a woman's happiness, but she does nothing for that. So she lives alone in a small apartment. They met Lauren at school. Her daughter Bertha took French lessons with her, so Lauren was a frequent guest at their house. Somehow they became friends, and that friendship has lasted 5 years. Lauren stayed at Megan's until the evening and only arrived at the restaurant in the evening to see how the banquet was going tonight. Lauren's business was not just in this town. 5 different towns had her restaurants. But this was where the biggest restaurant was, with an office, and this was where she spent her days. The restaurant was where the wedding was taking place. So as not to disturb anyone, Lauren went in through the back door. What she saw there shocked her. Her daughter was standing there, hugging the new waiter. What the hell was that? I don't get it. Mom, what are you doing here? Bertha got scared. What are you doing here? I'm visiting Frank. Bertha, come home quickly. And you, young man, you can look for a job. You won't be working here anymore. She walked past them and went into her office. A few minutes later, Bertha came running in. Mama, don't you dare fire him. And don't you raise your voice at me. Mom, I love him and we've been dating for a long time. What are you, like a complete stranger? You're 15 years old. What love? Don't talk nonsense. Mom, you don't understand anything. I understand everything perfectly. He's using you. He just wants me to pay him more money and you're so upset. Mom, all you think about is money. I'm sick of it all. You're living in some world of your own where everything's fine. Wake up. Dad loves someone else. He doesn't want you. And you know what? I support him. He's right to cheat on you. You're greedy and calculating. Lauren couldn't take it anymore and slapped her. The daughter looked at her with such hurt eyes that Lauren was even uncomfortable. The daughter turned and ran away, and the woman began to cry. Lauren could not understand when she had missed such an important moment with her daughter's upbringing. Sitting down in her chair, she turned her back to the window. She had no understanding with her husband, and now her relationship with her daughter was ruined. She sat looking out the window, remembering how little Bertha had been. At that moment, Lauren was the happiest mother in the world. She was different now. and she had a lot of problems with her. Suddenly, there was a knock at the office, and Frank was standing on the doorstep. "I would like to get an estimate, and you won't see me tomorrow," he said quietly. Lauren looked at him carefully. "Sit down, we have to talk." Lauren's voice was as firm and angry as always. Frank sat down in a chair and tuned in to listen. "How do you know Bertha?" "We've known each other since high school." "You went to high school together then?" "Yeah, we did. Don't get the wrong idea. I just like her and like her." "Except you're 18 and she's 15. Don't you notice anything strange?" Lauren said rudely. "I'll let you keep your job on one condition: if you stop talking to my daughter. Plus, I promise you a nice raise." "No, that's out of the question. You can't stop us from talking." "You don't know me very well. I'll give you 3 days to think about it, so come back tomorrow for your shift." "You're so mean and calculating," said Frank. "And you're a little bore." "Well, that's all right. I can handle it. I always handle everything. You're free to go and work." Frank got up and went into the hall. Lauren took hold of her head and began to think about how she could talk her way out of this fiancé. Nothing came to mind. So much had happened in the last few days that she just needed a break. She picked up the phone and called Clement. "Hi, I want to visit you. I want to go to your house," Lauren said. This phrase really surprised Clement, and it was audible that he was thinking, "Well, of course. Come over. Send me your address. And oh, by the way, I want some red wine." "I understand. I'll go to the store," said Clement in a satisfied voice. She stayed at work for a while and went to visit Clement. The man was already waiting for her. She understood exactly why she was going there. Now, she didn't give a damn about her husband or other people's opinions. She had to start living for herself. Before she entered the house, the woman immediately asked where the shower in this house was. You should have seen Clement's eyes at the moment. "Over there." The man pointed to a door at the end of the hall. The house was very large, and it was obvious that he made a lot of money. Lauren stepped out of the shower wearing only one towel. She had spent the night with Clement, and she was not ashamed at all. Early in the morning, the woman went home. There was no one at home. Bertha was already at school, and her husband probably hadn't even come home for the night. Lauren sat down in the kitchen and made herself some hot coffee. She drank it slowly and looked out the window. There was a kind of peace of mind in her soul. Then heavy footsteps were heard outside the door, and the door opened. On the threshold stood Dwayne. He had such a contented face that it immediately confused Lauren. "Well, where have you been, dear, all night?" "Lauren, I'm tired of lying. I was with your friend Megan. We've been going out a long time." "I'm glad you told me that. I wanted to tell you that I had another man too." His wife's answer shocked the man. He was simply speechless. It would seem that now he would be outraged and start a terrible scandal. But what is there to say? The two of them had made a mistake. "Dwayne, let's get a divorce. It won't work anyway." "How could you?" "How could I?" Lauren laughed. "I'm just tired of waiting for you every night and believing you'll change. People like you don't change. You and I haven't even seen our daughter grow up yet. Let's part without further ado. There's no need to make a circus out of this." "Yeah, Lauren, you're right. We should have broken up a long time ago instead of living in memories. After all, it's all for the best." The man went silently to pack his things. Of course, Lauren had not expected such a reaction from her husband. She thought he would start screaming, and eventually they would reconcile. Deep down, she still loved him. Except Dwayne hadn't loved her for a long time. He moved out of the apartment they had bought together on the same day. Bertha was completely cool about it. She never spoke to her mother. Lauren tried many times to get along with her, but nothing. "Bertha, I don't understand what you want from me." "Mom, I want you to hear me. I like Frank, and we'll still be together. I know you tried to bribe him, but money can't buy everything in this world. Get it through your head." "Bertha, he's not worth your little finger." "I don't want to talk to you." The girl ran back to her room. Lauren put on her coat and went to work. There, she immediately called Frank into her office. "Have you thought about my proposal?" "I have." "Well, what are you going to tell me?" "Fire me. I don't agree to your scam." "It's up to you. The choice was yours. Now don't be offended." Lauren signed the resignation letter and sent it to the accounting department. She didn't care at all what happened now. In the evening, when she returned home, she found her daughter and her things missing. She was prepared for this turn of events. Lauren knew her daughter well. All she had to do was wait, and she would come home on her own. They had been through this before. But by evening, Bertha had not returned. She called her mother and told her everything that had happened in the past week. Don't you worry. I'm going to tell you something, but promise you won't let anyone know. Well, just say it. Bertha's at my place with Frank. They're staying with me while they're on vacation. Mother, how could you let this happen? She's 15 years old and you let her into your house with Frank? Look at yourself when you were her age. I was a lot smarter than that. Oh, don't be ridiculous. Lauren, remember when you ran away from home all because you were in love? After talking to her mother for a while, Lauren visibly calmed down. Now she knew where her daughter was. All fears fell away. So Lauren was left alone in the big apartment. She didn't even notice that it was the end of December on the calendar. The New Year and Christmas holidays were approaching. Sometimes, Lauren would go out with Clement, but she didn't really feel any intimacy with the man. He was just someone for her to pass the time with. Clement hinted at a serious relationship, but Lauren didn't want to step on the same rake. She didn't want a relationship at all. She only kept in touch with Clement because she saw how much he needed it. Before the new year, Clement asked her one question. How are we going to celebrate the New Year and Christmas with you? Clement, I've been thinking. I don't want this relationship anymore. What do you mean you don't want it? What's with all the sleepless nights and late nights? I don't know, I'm sorry. I have to spend Christmas with my family, my parents, and my daughter. They need me. And you'll find a girl to share your bed and your heart with. I'm not the right person for you. You have absolutely no idea who I need. I'm sorry. Lauren turned around and walked away. She got into her car and drove into the village. She really wanted to see her daughter, whom she hadn't seen in almost a week. Playing the love game, she didn't even notice how quickly time flew by. Lauren arrived at her parents' house, where she was met by her daughter with a disgruntled look. Frank was chopping wood in the backyard with her grandfather at the time. Lauren stood in the hallway and was happy. Bertha, we need to talk. Is there anything else you haven't told me, Mommy? If you want to be with Frank, I don't mind. Bertha's gaze quickly changed. She looked intently at her mother and then hugged her. Mom, I've missed you so much. You have no idea, daughter, how much I missed you. Mom, you were right to divorce Dad. We can do it together. Don't worry about it. Of course we will. We always have. Lauren entered the house. Mom was getting ready for New Year's Eve. It was so nice, the wood crackling in the fireplace. Lauren immediately remembered her childhood visiting her grandmother. What a nice place you have here. Lauren breathed deeply. She walked over to her mother and hugged her. She inhaled her scent. She smelled the same as she did when she was a child. No, she didn't smell of the expensive perfume Lauren constantly gave her. She smelled like food. Mom, I'm sorry I didn't say this more often, but I love you so much. Daughter, I love you too. Tears streamed down her face, just disappearing into the wrinkles of her face. Lauren had missed so much in her life. She hadn't noticed how old her mother had gotten and how many gray hairs were on her head. Lauren realized that there was nothing more important than family happiness in the world. Happiness lay in the little things at home. As soon as she eliminated the unnecessary people from her life, life smoothly improved. Lauren sat and smiled as she looked at Bertha and Frank. They were so happy, so young. Then she apologized to Frank and told him he could go back to work. Still, her daughter's happiness was more important than any principles. At 21, Bertha married Frank, and Lauren would soon become a granddaughter. The woman is very happy that her grandson is coming, but at the same time, she is very scared. She never expected to be a grandmother so soon. Dwayne is happy with Megan. He calls Bertha occasionally. Oddly enough, Lauren doesn't resent him at all. I guess it's all gone by.